there was an exploit discovered in late December 2021 in the popular Apache library Log4j. Specifically, this exploit resides in the Log4j core library. Many programs use this code, including Apache Tomcat, Java Spring, and yes, Minecraft. Many popular services use Java to run their servers, including Netflix, Zendesk, and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. As you can see, an exploit discovery in such a reusable library is unsettling, just by the sheer amount of services that could be affected. So, how does this exploit work? And what did the Biden administration find in their recent report on the exploit? Before we get into all of this, if you enjoy the video at any point in time, please subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. It helps by showing me that you enjoyed this content, and it helps to recommend you more of the things that I make here. So how does it work? Well, all of the information in this section was sourced from Raxis, who are a penetrations testing company. According to a Raxis article entitled Log4j, How to Exploit and Test This Critical Vulnerability by Mark Puckett, this critical vulnerability, labeled CVE 2021-44228, affects a large number of customers, as the Apache Log4j component is widely used in both commercial and open source software. In addition, ransomware attackers are weaponizing the Log4j exploit to increase their reach to more victims across the globe. Raxis demonstrated the exploit using a few components: a victim's Tomcat 8 web server using a vulnerable version of Log4j, a netcat listener to catch the shell that will be passed to us from the victim server via the exploit, a Python web server, which is used to distribute the payload to the victim server, and some exploit code, creating a weaponized LDAP server which will redirect the victim server to download and execute a Java class that is obtained from our Python web server running on port 80 above. A note, the payload Java class will spawn a shell to port 9001, the netcat listener. To execute the attack, simply copy the exploit string, which exploits JNDI to make an LDAP query to the attacker's exploit session. So, what makes this exploit string work? Well, the attack string exploits a vulnerability in Log4j and requests that a lookup be performed against the attacker's weaponized LDAP server. To do this, an outbound request is made from the victim server to the attacker's system on port 1389. The exploit session indicates the receipt of the inbound LDAP connection and redirection made to our attacker's Python web server. The exploit session has sent a redirect to our Python web server, which is serving up a weaponized Java class that contains code to open up our shell. The Java class was actually configured from the exploit session and is only being served on port 80 by the Python web server. The last step is where Raxis obtains the shell with control of the victim server. The Java class sent to the victim contains code that opened a remote shell to our attacker's netcat session. The attacker now has full control of the Tomcat 8 server, although limited to the Docker session that we had configured in this test scenario. A GitHub user, Cosmer, released a proof of concept of this attack. Let's watch. It's terrifying how easy it was to exploit this simple, I don't know what, I'm not like a Java web developer, but let's say it's Spring. It's terrifying that you could just go into the Spring login form that was there and just exploit that. It was really that easy for them to just go in and basically pull what is full control, which is scary. Less for a user, although yes, you could have data storage and stuff on that server, you probably do, and then that's where it becomes kind of scary because you get access to that data, and that's where some stuff can happen that might not be great. But for the server, I mean, ransomware is a thing. And you don't want that. You don't want ransomware, and this is just something that's so easy to be exploited for ransomware. So we don't, this is not good, and people should update. You'll hear me go on about that forever and ever and ever. The Minecraft clip's just funny, honestly, but, anyways. As you can see, it's a worrying issue. It doesn't immediately concern users of the site, but it could concern their data or something else. Most worryingly, sites are now vulnerable to ransomware. It can be uploaded and executed, rendering a site useless until decrypted, if ever. We know that a lot of times ransomware, even after receiving the payment, won't decrypt. True all the way back to the big first boom of ransomware, WannaCry, where even if you opened up WannaDecryptor, you plugged it in, you got the Bitcoin address, you sent the Bitcoin, they wouldn't do anything. They wouldn't give you that key. They wouldn't give you the decryption key. And it's just because it's all cybercrime. It's all about the money. So they're not going to give you a key. They don't care. Why should they care? So, probably won't even be unlocked, which is even scarier because you have to start from ground zero, which again is why we should be making backups of everything offsite. And I know that's not practical for everyone, including myself, but backups save everything. It's a huge deal, so it's no surprise that the Biden administration looked into it. So what did Biden find? According to AP News, this issue will continue to pose security risks for potentially a decade or more, according to the Cyber Safety Review Board, created by Joe Biden to investigate the Russian SolarWinds cyber espionage campaign. If you remember that, that's when we got a DLL file into some IT software, and it laid dormant, which is why it's more of like an espionage attack than just a straight-up cyber attack. So it lay dormant, stole data once it was deployed. On July 14th, 2022, the board released a report which explained that Log4j will still be exploited for years to come. It's pretty obvious to come to this conclusion, especially when companies aren't gonna update. I mean, you have banks still running on Windows XP, and it's just not what we should be doing, but here we are. Rob Silvers, the chairman of the board and Department of Homeland Security Undersecretary, said Log4j is one of the most serious software vulnerabilities in history. You have to, of course, understand why, and it's because it's such a general piece of software. SolarWinds is only used by a specific department of some companies, whereas this is used by open source software. This is used by just software. Everything from a video game to a web server to anything uses Log4j. It's just such a useful tool with something that's applicable for almost any type of application, which of course is why everyone's using it. So basically the issue isn't going away unless we do something about it. The people who don't control the big companies like you and I can't do much, but we can raise awareness about this issue. For companies, may I implore you to update your software if you haven't already. Make sure your stuff is updated, and specifically Log4j, I would check after this. After this sort of attack or sort of release, you got to check Log4j. You got to make sure it's up to date. If it's not up to date, then you got to update. And if that means you have to update your software that you're coding yourself, your web server code itself, then it means you have to update your web server code. Because you don't want to be the ones who were ransomware attacked. You don't want to be the ones who had to go through a cyber attack. You don't. And you don't want your users being angry about that. Open source developers too. Although typically you can find that they're on top of this stuff more than the closed source people. There is a fix, so let's get the antiquated versions out of service and improve cybersecurity. I guess that's what we can take away. If you stay up to date, many hacks and exploits aren't going to work. For example, WannaCry used the Eternal Blue exploit to spread, and while the NSA did hide this from Microsoft when they discovered it, a fix was made for every OS going back to Windows XP. And then everyone proceeded to not update and still get hacked. And this was well before the ransomware was released. As soon as there was the leak of Eternal Blue, we had immediate response from the NSA, or immediate response from Microsoft, or both of them. The NSA told Microsoft, I don't know exactly what happened, but Microsoft released updates all the way back to Windows XP. Everyone had a patch before the ransomware came out because everyone knew the ransomware was going to come out. Everyone knew some hack was going to come out of this, and yet people still didn't update, which is infuriating, actually, to me. It's fine to not update for feature updates, even though they also typically contain security updates. Make sure you'll continue to receive security updates. For example, if you're using Windows 10 right now, I get that. You don't want Windows 11, that's great. Once Windows 10 reaches end of life, update. You've got to. You don't want to be the person. You don't want to be the person who got hacked. You don't. So that's what it is. Just keep in mind, every device will always have a backdoor, will always have an exploit, because no one's perfect, because we're all human. And so, essentially, we're forced to turn around and keep updating and keep fixing. We gotta just keep fixing. And as the end user, you're not doing the fixing, but you gotta accept those fixes. Otherwise, some bad stuff can happen, and the companies, although they released the original exploitable piece of software, they fixed it. Usually they fixed it before the exploit even comes out. So update your iPhone, update your Apple Watch, update your Mac, update your Windows machine, update your little tablet that has Android 1 and can run Android Lollipop or something. I don't know. I'm not an Android person, but update. You got to stay up to date. Thank you for watching. I certainly enjoyed filming and creating this video off-site during our family vacation. It's fun to do stuff at a different location. Sitting at this vacation home. It's quite funny to sit here holding a microphone and film. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. Click the bell to receive all notifications. Leave a comment and let me know what you think about this, and suggest future videos as well. Thank you again for watching.